In the 1800s in the United States, you had most young people were children of farmers. They worked in the fields. And when somebody proposed that America institute a system of public education for all young people, the parents of the poor parents said, no, we can't allow our kids to go to school. They need to work, otherwise we starve. We don't have enough hands to work in the fields. So they opposed public education. The business community said, we want a system that will create, quote, industrial discipline. Industrial discipline meant you showed up on time. And you did the same work again and again and again and again, just as you did on an assembly line. And what happened was we designed schools that actually resemble the factory. If you look at our schools even today, they simulate factories. Kids have to arrive on time. Why is that? Because in the field, if you come late, it doesn't matter much. Your Uncle Charlie can, fill in for you for a few minutes.
And the bells ring to tell you when the class ends and the next one begins.
If you, as one person, comes late to the assembly line, you might have 1,000 workers standing by doing nothing, waiting for this function to be done before they can work. So the cost of the workers coming late is extremely expensive. Now what's happening? Now more and more people aren't working like that. They're working at home, or they work at different hours, strange hours, and so forth, and you don't need everybody showing up at exactly the same time. So what we have are schools that were literally designed to provide the workforce for an industrial age economy. And they do that very well, but that's not the kind of economy that we have anymore. And therefore, the entire system is obsolete. And we were waiting for Bill Gates to say something. And about 2 years ago, he finally said the right words. He said, we cannot reform our education system, we must replace it. And he is right, because the system is designed, as I said, to prepare people for yesterday, not for tomorrow. Now, that's an extremely difficult and painful thing to do. You have millions in the U.S., millions of people working in the schools, teachers and other people, and it's very dangerous in terms of they may lose jobs. This doesn't mean the teachers are bad. My sister's a teacher. I don't hate her because she's a teacher, but the system she's working in is a disaster today, and therefore we're going to see battles about education in country after country after country until this system is broken and replaced.
We now have increasing numbers of technologies that arm individuals to do what they previously had to go to an expert or to somebody else to do for them. We used to take a photograph. You wanted to photograph your family, you had to go to a drugstore, you had to buy film, a roll of film. You then shot the pictures, and you went back to the drugstore. They sent it to Kodak up in Rochester, New York, and maybe a week later you had it back. Well, now we have the camera in your hand, and it makes that entire process makes it possible for the user rather than somebody else to make that process and indeed increase them. I don't know how many of you worry about blood pressure, but you used to have to go to a doctor and say, "Doc, what's my blood pressure?" Now you can buy a blood pressure machine, you have it, it's your own, you do the job that the doctor used to do as far as finding out what your blood pressure was.
The question that always came up is, why do I have to study algebra? And the parents always say, because it'll be good for you in the future. Well, that presupposes the parent knows the future, first of all. And second of all, it's not very persuasive. It occurs to me there's a way maybe you could get kids to see a reason for learning algebra. And I've always been thought about the idea, why can't we put together a team of depending on the age, of course, a team of kids with a teacher and maybe outside citizens who participate and take them to solve a little local community problem. Traffic jams or some piece of pollution or something. which just happens to require algebra to solve the problem. And then when you say, why do I need to learn that? You don't have that issue. You say, we've got to solve this problem. It's action learning rather than some abstract. Obsolete is my favorite word in the whole book. It's a word we cooked up to mean obsolete knowledge. Most of the decisions we make in our daily life are based on obsolete knowledge. The most, including the White House and our own kitchen. Okay, and one reason for that is getting more and more true, because as change accelerates, the rate at which knowledge becomes obsolete accelerates, and as a result, much of what we believe will be in another decade or so. We'll all, if we were able to look back on it, we'll say, how do we ever believe that nonsense? It's stupid. And don't be ashamed of being stupid, because Aristotle was stupid, Da Vinci was stupid. If you read the things they actually believed in their time, you can't believe it. You can't believe that they believed it. It was wildly absurd. The assumption we make is that education takes place in school. In 1976-77, the first PCs appeared in the world. And at that time, if you wanted to buy a PC, nobody had ever heard of a PC before. So you need help. If you're going to use this machine, you need better help than you can get from Radio Shack. What you need is a guru. You need a computer guru. Who is a computer guru? Answer, anybody who bought a machine 1 week before you did. And what happened then was, in a certain way, amazing. Because what happened was, gurus would, one guy would be the guru here, but then this guy would get ahead of him and he would then help him. And you had an enormous transfer of learning among people. And by the end of the century, or now, it must be, 150 million, 200 million Americans who know how to use PCs. They're not necessarily techies, and they're not necessarily full-time geeks, but they know how to use the PC, and I believe that has a powerful impact on the economy, and valuable impact on the economy. The amazing thing is, how did they learn? Almost nobody went to school. This was not education in a classroom. And I tell this story only to say that when we think about education of the future, we shouldn't automatically assume that all education takes place in a classroom. It may be that there are completely different ways of moving information, communicating information through the society, let alone online. There was a PC embedded in a stone wall in a village in India without instructions. And the first thing that happened is kids came out and looked at it and began to play with it. And in a matter of days, they had figured out how to do things on it. And they had access to the internet, and they had done all kinds of, for all practical purposes, unimaginable things just by being kids and playing with it. They learned something. So basically the point I'm making is that if we're really going to rethink education, we should rethink it from its ground assumptions up. Why not ask those questions as though we were starting from scratch? Because, in my opinion, we are essentially starting from scratch in a new way of life.